Hello, my name is Samantha Dotson, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the gender binary. The gender binary is a sex classification system which everyone is defined as a male or female through their biological reproductive system. Take a look at these books. You may have read them, see a friend reading them, or even seen the film adaptation of them, but they are pretty popular. You've probably heard of them. But what does this have to do with the gender binary? Well, they all have LGBTQ plus themes in them, a queer trans character or a queer character trope with the LGBTQ. And with these themes, they're being targeted in our very own Congress floor today. So, yes, I am telling you that your favorite books are being targeted by the gender binary. And let me tell you why. The gender binary perpetuates dangerous stereotypes of queer and trans people, therefore stigmatizing and dehumanizing these individuals, which outcasts them from hetero and cisgender society. And not only do these individuals, community, and even their friends outcast them, LGBTQ plus people have significantly higher rates of familial estrangement. And with these problems played into queer and trans people's everyday lives, they are more likely to suffer from suicidal thoughts and depression, anxiety, or even drug abuse. As you can see on the graph on the right, 1/3 of American LGBTQ individuals say that discrimination has had effect on their ability to be hired. And while 1/3 sounds like a relatively small number, that is approximately 8 million Americans. As I mentioned earlier, trans people experience an obscure amount of misrepresentation in the media and TV because the gender binary requires that trans people express themselves through cisgender ideologies and within the conjugation of trans expression and cisgender understanding. A lot of things are lost in translation. Similarly, distinct individual groups are often grouped into one group, the LGBTQ group, rather than rejoicing in pride within each community. For example, opposing straight people with gay people erases everyone in between and erases bisexuality. That's one example. Another one, the effect race has on hierarchies, the concept of a gay white man having more privileges than a black trans woman. All of these struggles combined create a false sense of inferiority within the LGBTQ community compared to heteronormative society. Now, all of these gruesome impacts diminishes the lives of queer and trans people every single day. Trans people, every single time they fill out a medical form, they have to align themselves with their gender assigned at birth rather than their preferred gender. Oppositional sexism between men and women and gay and straight people erases the existence of everyone in between. And this therefore hinders the interaction between hetero and cisgender society and LGBTQ society. But there is a solution to eradicate gender and sexuality discrimination as much as possible. The idea of a gender spectrum allows variations of every gender, which already happens biologically. It also encourages a societal change, allowing the concept of gender to be a spectrum, to be more inclusive and affirming to everyone. Allowing sexuality to be a spectrum rather than cut and dried labels would allow for everyone to love one another the way they want to. However, accepting these ideas of a spectrum is not the only action we as a society must take. Like I mentioned, there are many legislations in Congress and state Congresses targeting trans people in their sports, forcing them to play in a class of sport of their gender assigned at birth rather than their preferred gender. There are also a lot of bills and even some laws passed in certain states preventing gender affirming healthcare to trans people, especially trans youth. Um, some of you may be familiar with the law coined as the Don't Say Gay law, which targets LGBTQ plus themes in education as inappropriate and doesn't encourage them to be taught. And there are many, many activists and movements calling for certain discriminatory laws already in place and pro LGBTQ laws in place to be repealed. Some solutions. The Equality Act, it would amend the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to prohibit discrimination on the basis of sex, sexual orientation, or gender identity. The Customary Non-Discrimination Act is on the same basis as it would just prohibit discrimination within public institutions. So, and of course, repealing anti-LGBTQ laws. So moving forward, the best way to get started is within your local elections and organizing within your community. You can always contact your representatives, email them, or shoot them a letter. If your representatives don't know the amount of support a certain bill or ideology has, they may not vote that way. So you have to express that through advocacy and awareness. It's a great way to communicate to your peers, and grow movements. Most importantly, vote. It's the most effective way to enact change. Vote for pro LGBTQ legislation. Vote for representatives who will keep your favorite books in the library shelves. Vote for representatives who will support queer and trans individuals and who will support you and your peers. I know there's an understanding that talking about gender and sexuality is inappropriate. It's not something you're supposed to talk about, but the lives of and discrimination of LGBTQ people are not something to shy away from. We must act on the discrepancies between hetero and cisgender society and LGBTQ communities. Thank you.